Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And this Week 9 matchup will be happening on November 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can catch that on your local CBS affiliates. Heading into this game, Jacksonville is 1-7, and Cincinnati is 4-2-1. So Jacksonville started off the season by losing to Philadelphia and Washington, both in their respective homes. Then they lost their third game in Jacksonville against the Colts. Then they went on the road to San Diego, lost to the Chargers. Then they hosted the Steelers and lost. And then they went to Tennessee and lost to the Titans. Then in Week 7, they got their first victory of the season. That was in Jacksonville against Cleveland. And then last week in Week 8, they lost at home against Miami. Cincinnati started off the season with 3 straight victories. First, they won on the road in Baltimore. Then they had 2 home wins, one against the Falcons, then against the Titans. They then had a bye in Week 4. And then coming out the bye, they struggled as they lost on the road in New England. Then they ended up playing to a tie at home against Carolina. Then they went to Indianapolis and they lost to the Colts as they got shut out by Indianapolis there. But then in Week 8, they got their first victory of October as they beat the Baltimore Ravens in Cincinnati. They beat them by a field goal last week. It was a very competitive game, and they actually swept the Baltimore Ravens in their season series. That's huge for Cincinnati. That could go a long way towards deciding a very tough AFC North. Is all the teams in the North are very competitive, and they're all there in the running for that division title, all 4 of them. So it's huge to get that win over Baltimore, and now they have a game against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's coming into Cincinnati, and really, despite the fact that Jacksonville's 1-7, it's not like I'm trying to down on them. I picked them last week against Miami, but I really give them no chance against Cincinnati in this game. The only chance really that Jacksonville has is that the Bengals are banged up. They've got a lot of injuries. Giovanni Bernard definitely is not playing in this game, nor is Vontaze Burfict, and those are 2 of their better players. Of course, they have a lot of talent on the Bengals, but Burfict is like the heart and soul of their defense, and Giovanni Bernard is really their whole ground game. So that's going to hurt the Bengals for sure. And they've got a lot of other players that are banged up too. Potentially, it's still not sure if A.J. Green is going to play from what I'm seeing. It's going to be a game time decision, but that doesn't look too promising, although he did participate in practice in a very limited role. So he did get out there to make a couple catches, but I'm not sure if they're going to really, bring him back. They don't really need him necessarily in this game. So, maybe hold off until next week against Cleveland in the Battle of Ohio. But Jacksonville does have a lot of talent, but it's still in Cincinnati. The Bengals are just about unbeatable. They have not lost at home since back in 2012, I believe. They did have that tie game that they played against Carolina, but it doesn't count as a loss. It's just a tie. And last year the Bengals were 8-0 at home. Of course, they did lose that playoff game. So they did lose in 2014, actually, in January. So they have technically lost this year against, the Chargers back in the playoffs. In the wild card round, they made that early exit, which was very disappointing for Cincinnati fans. But other than that, they were just unstoppable at home. So I think that Jacksonville coming in, although I do expect Denard Robinson to have another good week, as he's been looking very good and promising on the run game for Jacksonville. He had 127 yards in their lone victory back in Week 7. And then last week he had 108 yards. So they seem to have finally found, a way to use Denard Robinson in their offense. But let's actually look at the numbers for both of these teams. And when it comes to passing proficiency, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 27th in the NFL in passing yards per game. The Bengals are 14th in the NFL. And then when it comes to passing defense, the Jaguars are also 27th in the NFL in yards allowed through the air. The Bengals are 23rd. So Jacksonville, when it comes to passing, they have trouble, putting up consistent yards. Blake Bortles has shown some promise, but they still, it's a little bit away, and they're down there in the bottom, 5 in this league when it comes to passing the ball, both on offense and defense. The Bengals, they've been struggling somewhat against the pass on defense, but they're decent at passing the ball on offense. Once they get firing, and get things going, and they're healthy, they're, a much stronger team. The numbers really don't indicate how good the Bengals are. I mean, a few weeks ago, in the month of September anyway, the Bengals were considered one of the best teams. They were undefeated in September, but then in October, they didn't win until the very last week of October. So we'll see going forward where the Bengals are at in the second half of the season. They need to have a strong push in the second half. But as for the numbers and as for this game, they do have the advantage over Jacksonville in the passing game. We look at the running statistics. When it comes to rushing yards, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 25th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, and the Bengals are 16th. When it comes to rushing defense, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 20th in yards allowed on the ground per game, and the Bengals are 29th. So you see the Bengals are struggling against the run to stop the run. But the Jaguars are better against the run. That's one of their strong points, but they're still in the bottom half of the league when it comes to defending the run. And when it comes to actually running the ball, Jacksonville has struggled, of course. As we just mentioned a few moments ago, Denard Robinson rushed for over 100 yards the last 2 weeks, so they seem to have found their stride finally after getting next to no production in the backfield until week 7. And with the Cincinnati Bengals, they can run the ball, but with Giovanni Bernard being injured, they're going to have to rely on their backups, so we'll see how that all plays out. Hill is capable, but we'll see if he can carry the full load. Of course, they should still be splitting the ball anyway, but as it is, the advantage goes to Cincinnati, although their run defense is not very good. You still got to get the edge to the Bengals. And then when we go to look at the points for and against, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 32nd in the league when it comes to scoring points per game. The Bengals are 18th. Neither team is really good at scoring, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are the worst. Someone has to be the worst when it comes to the amount of points they score, and it just happens to be the Jaguars at this moment. It could be somebody else next week, but that's how it is right now. Those are just the numbers. And so then when we look at points against, the Jaguars are a little bit better than they are on offense. In this category, they are 27th in points allowed, still not very good, and pretty bad actually. But when it comes to the Bengals, they're 17th, so they're edging towards being in the middle of the pack. Right there at 17 in points allowed. So again, the edge goes to the Bengals. Their numbers aren't really the best, but they're middle of the pack, and really in the NFL this year with the parity, that's not a bad place to be. That's actually a very competitive place to be. So that's how the numbers go. So the Bengals have an advantage in all statistical categories. That doesn't necessarily mean a team's going to win. We saw, last week the Saints were at a disadvantage against the Packers, but they were able to beat them. But they were at home, and that's the thing here. Not only are the Cincinnati Bengals, have the advantage on paper and in all the statistics and all the numbers, they also are at home. The only thing that Jacksonville technically does better than Cincinnati is run defense. But other than that, the Bengals are far and away, statistically speaking, the better team. And it's in Cincinnati, so I definitely think the Bengals are going to win this one. They should win it running away. And the potential for a blowout definitely exists. Maybe Jacksonville makes it close because of all the injuries on the Bengals. Maybe they overlook Jacksonville a little bit. It's possible. I still think they come away with the victory. If they come out fired up, Don't be surprised if the Bengals end up winning this one by 3, maybe even 4 touchdowns. That's possible. Like I said, I mean, you never know what could happen. Maybe Jacksonville makes it a competitive game. Like I said, the Bengals are banged up. Still think they're going to win. And it's just a matter of really how much they're going to win by. But that's what I think. Let me know what you think. Very interested to hear your comments. Or read your comments in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. And also, if you want more of this content, subscribe as we bring you upon further reviews and recaps for each and every single game, each and every single week. We also cover some other stuff as well. We just got done covering the baseball playoffs, and we also cover college football. We had to take it off for a little bit because of the baseball playoffs, but now that the baseball playoffs are done, we should be able to get back to covering more college football. We also do a weekly show, The Wedge. I actually did not get it up this week, but we got it up every single week prior. I still got to get up there. It's just a matter of all the rendering time. It's a very long video. Try to get it up there ASAP. That's usually up, though, in the middle of the week between Tuesday and Thursday. Try to get up there before the Thursday night football game. But thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a good weekend and enjoy all of the sports.